Last night, a friend rushed me out of the house to catch the opening act at a local bar's music night. After a few drinks, I realized my phone wasn't in my pocket. I checked the table we were sitting at, the bar, the bathrooms, and, after no luck, I used my friend's phone to call mine. After 2 rings, someone answered, gave out a low, raspy giggle, and hung up. They didn't answer again. I eventually gave it up as a lost cause and headed home. I found my phone laying on my nightstand, right where I left it. Bus driver. When I was a kid, I was always the last kid to get picked up by the bus driver to go to school. One day, I was waiting for the bus by myself, and a bus with no kids pulled up. The bus driver smiled and told me to hop on. I just had a bad feeling. I said, "Where are the other kids?" He said, "We will go get them now. Just get on." He got more and more pushy, but didn't do anything crazy. I just kept saying no, and he shrugged and left. The real bus pulled up a few minutes later. I went to school and my parents didn't know until I mentioned it that night. Looking back, they were pretty worried. I remember them scrambling to make a few phone calls. The lady next door. A few years back, I rented an apartment from a friend of mine. He had recently bought it and had it completely renovated. He put it up for sale but couldn't find a buyer, so I offered to rent it in the meantime. After moving in, I realized there was something wrong with the lady next door. She was about 45 but looked much older. She would sit up all night listening to Christian radio shows and talking loudly to someone. It got to the point where I couldn't sleep, so I went over to her place and asked her to keep it down. She opened the door and I got a quick peek. Her walls all had crosses painted on them in different colors and words like Jesus and angels scribbled everywhere. The windows were painted black, letting no light in at all. It was damp with yellow-stained 50-year-old carpets, dog feces, and cockroaches everywhere. No dog, though. I asked her to please keep it down. She just looked at me and shut the door, then turned up the radio even louder. The next night, I had my girlfriend staying over. I woke up in the middle of the night and saw a shadow of a person next to the bed looking at us sleeping. I thought I was hallucinating, as I usually do in the dark when I'm sleepy. But then, the shadow started talking. It was my neighbor, and she was holding something in her hand. She had broken in during the night, and who knows how long she had stood there. "You should lock your doors at night," she said, and walked out. The next morning, I heard someone making strange noises below my bedroom window. It was my neighbor, talking to herself in tongues. She had a plastic bag in her hand with her rotting dead dog inside. It was hot as hell outside, and I could smell death from that bag. At this point, I was scared shitless. She was obviously very insane. I went upstairs and knocked on another person's door and asked them what the hell was going on. The guy was as scared as me. Apparently, she had broken into his apartment one evening as well, while he was watching TV with his kids. He got up from the couch to get a snack, only to find her behind the couch staring at him, holding a power drill. Come to think about it, now I know what was in her hand. At this stage, I was basically terrified. I called the cops, and they knew all about her. Apparently, she was a violent schizophrenic, and she hadn't taken her meds, but they couldn't force her or enter her apartment without her permission because she owned it. The only thing they could do was get her when she went outside. I sat up for the next 2 days waiting for her to run out of cigarettes. When I heard her leave at 2 a.m. to go across the road to the 7-Eleven, I called the cops. They had 3 cars and a special van there in less than 2 minutes. They restrained her, threw her in the van, and drove off to some institution. In less than a minute, it was like she was never there. I never saw her again, but I still have nightmares about her looking at me in my sleep. Number 2. I was about 15 minutes from finishing the night shift at work when there was a massive crash on one of the windows in the office. I got up and went to check it out. Someone had thrown quite a sizable rock through one of the front windows of the building. This was made especially weird because I was working in the industrial district at 11:30 at night with none of the other businesses open. I went back to my desk, called security to let them know, and decided to head home. As I was leaving the building, I freaked myself out about it more and more, and ended up running to my car, getting in, and taking off. I was almost home and starting to calm down when I realized that I didn't unlock my car when I got in. It had been unlocked the whole time. I did a quick check with my hand in the back seat for any possible murderers, but nothing was there. About 30 minutes later, I called a friend who said he was out drinking, so I decided to join him. I jumped on my bicycle and started riding over. I was taking my time, enjoying the moonlight, when I heard someone riding behind me. I straightened up and stuck to one side of the road. He passed me really slowly, and when he was right beside me, he shot me a smile I can only describe as purely insane. Then I realized he was riding my mom's bike. Needless to say, I sprinted home. When I got there, sure enough, her bike was missing, and one of my car's doors was open, the back left one. I had been driving earlier and had no need to open that door. The payphone. I worked at a campground on night shift, 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. every night. It wasn't bad. I'd bring my PS2 and game most of the night, only having to deal with 1 or 2 people on busy nights. It was just me in this little 8x8 shack with nothing around but dark all night. My first week there, the other third shift guy told me about this payphone a few feet from the shack. He said it rang every night at 4:17 a.m. just once. Probably an automated test call, he guessed. He'd never answered it. I worked for a few months without hearing it because in the summer I kept the windows closed. But in mid-August, I started leaving the windows open, and sure enough, at 4:17 a.m. every morning, the phone would ring once. The ring even sounded creepy, like the payphone was submerged in water. One night, I got up the nerve to answer it. I set an alarm for 4:15 and waited. When it rang, I answered, but there was only dead air. I said hello a few times, then hung up. I did this every night for a week, same result. I stopped after that for about a month. The first week of October, I decided to answer again. I waited for the ring, picked it up, and said hello repeatedly. Then I heard what sounded like someone inhaling through clenched teeth. A rough voice, like it had gargled gravel, said my name, my full name, first, middle, and last. It was a voice I had never heard before. My throat tightened, and I hung up. I dropped some change into the payphone and hit star 69. The number had come from California. I lived in Indiana,